Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I come to the floor to talk about supply chain issues because we all know supply chain issues are plaguing us on a variety of fronts, and Congress needs to act to help consumers, to help our industries, and to make sure that supply chains work very well. I want to start by thanking the Biden administration for their fast action, along with Agricultural Secretary Vilsack, for creating pop-up space at our ports to make sure that U.S. growers and shippers can get their products to market. We have seen exorbitant rates now charged in shipping. That is, rates that used to be $1,300 a container have now gone up to either $5,000 a container or $11,000 a container, just depending on where you're talking about products being shipped. So agricultural products are being left on the docks because ships are actually returning empty and not taking our products with them. So tomorrow we will try to address this issue in the Senate Commerce Committee. But for now, as I said, last Friday, the administration announced a very innovative plan to make sure that there was dock space at U.S. ports to make sure that U.S. shippers, agriculture specifically, can be waiting and ready on the docks and get out the door. This is so important because there were industry officials there from the Lentil Association, from the Dairy Association. They said that they had lost billions last year from the impact of not being able to get their products to market. We know for a fact that there were 24% fewer containers that left full last year, and some people say that number has risen to 30% this year. So it means that instead of being filled with our U.S. exports to Asia, these containers are being left empty, and they're hurrying back to be filled up with more imports and then running back here to the United States. So we can't allow this cost to impact our growers. Not only does it impact them in not getting the product to market, but what happens is they actually lose shelf space. No one's going to wait forever for the U.S. product to come. They'll just go to another country and give them the shelf space. So the Biden administration is taking quick action to create this space at our ports to make sure that U.S. products are well positioned to get back to these markets as quick as possible. Congestion has been part of the problem. We've seen a huge increase in imports coming into the United States. That's caused uncertainty and congestion at these ports. And we need to do, that's why many of us supported the infrastructure bill to also build more capacity at our ports. And we know that we're going to continue to do everything we can in this area of shipping reform to make sure that U.S. farm agriculture products gets to their destination in a timely fashion. And I will have more to say about that tomorrow after we get legislation through our committee. But today, Madam President, I really wanted to speak to our colleagues, asking them to support moving forward on going to conference on the United States Innovation and Competition Act. It has been 286 days since the United States Senate passed this legislation, and we have an opportunity to help establish on a continued basis American leadership in technology, to employ more people to help our country compete in the economy of the future. But we can't do that if we don't get legislation passed, and we can't continue to wait for people who don't want to go to conference. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have to help us get to conference. This is so important, Madam President, because by 2030, there could be more than 10 million new jobs in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, communication, and in computing. All of those, guess what, depend on us making sure we do the right amount of R&D and make sure that we help in bringing U.S. manufacturing back to the United States. This is so critical as Americans are feeling the pinch from products that they can't get. We all know that we have to help small manufacturers who struggle with the supply chain themselves. That is why this bill invests in the National Institute for Technology to help us help companies strengthen their supply chain and fend off the threats of cybersecurity attacks. We also know that there's money in here to help educate a STEM workforce so that we can train and skill the number of people in STEM jobs that we need. But let's talk specifically about one supply chain crisis that is crippling America's economy right now because we don't have enough semiconductors. Semiconductors are an integral part of our system in communication, in defense, in healthcare, in transportation. And yet there are 0 semiconductor fabrication facilities in the United States that produce the most advanced chips. That's what we're after, Madam President, the most advanced chips. The United States must keep its leadership in this area of advanced technology. In fact, over 90% of these chips are manufactured in the Pacific in Taiwan. The rest are made in South Korea. So this is an economic and national security issue. Chip shortages drive up costs, and they also make us less safe. We know, thanks to a report from the Senate Armed Services Committee 10 years ago, that more than 1 million counterfeit components have been made and they're made their way into our national security system. So we've been fighting hard to fix that problem. Just this month, Europol reported that counterfeiters are trying to exploit the semiconductor shortage by introducing fake chips into the market, raising the chances that critical infrastructure like our defense system or other kind of communication systems could be compromised. So we've also been working hard to rip and replace a term that's been used to try to get foreign telecommunication electronics that could be compromised and used as a backdoor to try to make sure that we lower this threat. According to the telecommunications industry, this effort is compromised by what? Our chip shortage, which now we know that waiting times for some network equipment is now at 50 weeks. 50 weeks for something that's so important to our national security. The cost of some networking equipment has risen by as much as 12%, Madam President. So you hear about the cost of everything. We certainly hear about the cost of cars. So 12%, and people are selling chips for 100 times their regular price. That is no way to help us build out secure broadband access. When it comes to clean energy, which requires chips, the prices of solar panels are up 18% because of the chip shortage. And the cost of a used car has gone up 41%, and 12% for new cars. So a lot is due to this semiconductor shortage. And yet our colleagues don't know if we want to hurry after 286 days, go to conference and fix this problem. I'm asking my colleagues to vote to help us proceed to conference. Let's not take another 3.5, 4 weeks to figure out. If you don't like the House bill, I know a lot of my colleagues don't, let's get a better bill, but let's go to conference to get that done. We know right now, depending on one country, largely for the chip fabrication, is not the best idea, particularly when there are numerous issues. It's just been over 18 months since security researchers found a hacking campaign that compromised at least 7 Taiwanese chip manufacturers to steal semiconductor chip designs. So do we want to continue to rely on these other countries, or do we want to manufacture here in the United States of America something so critical to what is critical to the industries of the future, and help us by making sure that we have a plan never to have these kind of price spikes impact us because of shortages? So I ask my colleagues, these R&D bills are going to help us with U.S. manufacturing. They're so important. In addition to the semiconductor manufacturing incentives that are in these bills, it specifically has resources for the Department of Defense to secure microelectronic supply chains and help our national security mission. That's what's at stake here. Why are we delaying? If you don't like these ideas, at least let's get on the bill and offer some ideas in conference that you would like to see. We're more than happy to have that discussion. But industry is taking action to try to resolve the shortages, but investing in semiconductor manufacturing technology will actually help us increase the productivity that is so essential and needed for our foundries. Our current shortages, some people might think, well, in a few years we'll catch up and be a thing of the past. I will tell you, if we don't act, more shortages are to follow. The world needed 1 trillion chips per year by 2018. In 2021, it was nearly 1.2 trillion chips per year. That is how our economy has changed, and everything relies on these semiconductors. In 2031, if the total sales match the revenue projection, we will need 2 million chips per year. So that is why we need to act quickly on something that is impacting practically everyday parts of our lives. Current projections show that demand for chips will grow in all sectors, especially the automotive sector, where semiconductors in the content in vehicles could double. Now, Madam President, I don't know. I hear a lot of talk as I went home to hear about these issues, but some people are saying that maybe people are even taking semiconductors out of the current designs of automobiles just so they can get the product ready so they can get it to ship. Now, why do we want that? We don't want that. We want America to have a full supply of semiconductors, produce the best intelligent product that the market wants, and compete internationally. But to do that, we have to get this bill moving, and we have to get support. Madam Chair, that is, Madam President, why tomorrow we are having members of the semiconductor industry testify before the Senate Commerce Committee so we can hear about how the United States can have next-generation technology and lead in this critical area. We do not want to rely on someone else to make sure that we have a secure nation, secure communication, and the next generation that is going to move our industry, particularly manufacturers, to be competitive in a global economy. So the choice in front of us is whether we want the United States to have a leading role in chip fabrication and in R&D, and whether we're going to meet that demand. If you're ready to take that, please help us get to conference. It can take 3 to 5 years from when a foundry is built to when production begins, and every day that we don't move to pass USICA is just another day that U.S. manufacturers are waiting. This bill means investment in our future. It means investment in securing supply chain. It means investments that will protect us from these kind of price spikes in the future. It's an investment well worth meeting if Congress will act, and I encourage my colleagues to do so. I thank the President, and I yield the floor.